From the roundtable at Uncle's Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters, the central location for all your workers' compensation, employment, and labor law matters. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk, news, and hopefully some answers about WorkCom Matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your WorkCom Matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in with your questions, comments, and or concerns. The phone number worldwide is 818-357-4120. You can send me an email to WCExaminer@AOL.com. You can even be old school. Send a fax, 818-475-1437. With me in studio, my right-hand man, Mike Zima, the best-dressed man in workers' compensation, Ted Durden, my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron, Scott Walton, engineering the show with the technical difficulties, and back at WorkComp Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Jake Harris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters. We are full strength here at the Palace at Uncle Studios, and I was actually looking past today because I've been promoting for the past 2 weeks Hillary Bricken coming on the show next week, and I just thought today, I figured Mike would understand this is sort of like we've already made the playoffs. It's at the end of the season. It's a throwaway game or two just to sell some tickets, but within the past 24 hours, it falls from the sky. It hits me right on top of the head. It's like a 102-mile-an-hour fastball coming right down the plate. I couldn't believe it. The Workers' Compensation Appeals Board commissioners have sent an in-bank letter dated February 18th, 2018, addressed to Attorney Mi Kim of the Department of Industrial Relations Fraud Unit and Attorney Kim Card of OD Legal, claiming that Kim has accessed at least one email thread between Catherine Zalewski, chairman of the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, and Vanessa Holton, the general counsel for the State Bar of California. Attorney Holton, who used to be with the Department of Relations, has confirmed she did not forward the email thread to Mi Kim, and Kim was not a party to the email thread. Because the email in question came off of Holton's personal AOL account, and I didn't know anybody else used AOL besides me, the commissioners have concluded that Attorney Mi Kim somehow accessed or hacked or caused to be accessed or hacked into Chairman Zalewski's DIR email account. There has been an immediate response from Kim Card. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's posted on my Facebook. And the commissioners asked her a series of 10 questions, and she addressed questions 1 through 8 as follows. I am not authorized to address questions I am not authorized to address questions 1 through 8 in your letter and ask that you please address these questions directly to Director Christine Baker or Secretary David Lanier. As far as questions 9 through 10, she essentially says, I saw nothing, I know nothing, but obviously I will 100% cooperate in any way I can. Her response was, of course, in February, and it was either, I believe, in early April, maybe late March, that the administrative director, Christine Baker, all of a sudden resigned. Additionally, an anonymous letter just came out, and it was addressed to all media outlets, and it says this. And again, folks, it's anonymous. Recently, there has been coverage in the media, some positive in the workers' compensation and Cal-OSHA press, about the abrupt resignation, retirement of former Department of Industrial Relations Director Christine Baker, immediately followed by her brother, James Colby. Her daughter, Julianne Baker, has been on leave from the Department of Industrial Relations since August 2017. The real reasons for Christine Baker's departure will become known shortly when the California State Auditor releases his report on the investigation into whistleblower and whistleblower retaliation complaints filed against her in 2015. As is customary, the Department of Industrial Relations and California Labor and Workforce Development Agency received a draft of the auditor's report 30 days before its release. That report is supposed to be released within the next week or two. We look forward to receiving that as soon as we find it. We'll get it to you on Work Comp Matters. If you're interested in the documents I've just been reading from, we've got 3 of them. They're posted on my Facebook, and I thank you very much for that. Coming up later on the show, we've got updated news stories of the week. Housing and urban development. Ben Carson is in Southern California. He's viewing down on Skid Row, South L.A., and a little bird told me he's being followed by Sean Hannity's real estate broker. In addition
looking for some tips.
Looking for some tips, exactly. In addition to that, we have a story that I specifically assigned for Ted about the 7th planet in the solar system. We've also got a story coming out about in-home support services. We've got a story coming out about kidney retransplants or regifting your kidneys. We have a story about the handshake and how whether or not you're physically fit applies to whether or not you're mentally fit. We have, of course, a story about the cannabis industry and insurance. We've gotten a story about Advent Health of Glendale, I believe. Of course, as always, we have teens texting. And last but not least, there's been a recall. And I definitely want to get this story on. Audi is recalling 1 million cars around the world.
Wow.
Of course, my name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, please give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out concerts, sports, theater tickets, even front row, give our buddy Brian a call. I've known him for over 20 years at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. Without further ado, with the next news story of the night on Work Comp Matters, he's my right-hand man. He keeps me in check and out of trouble at least 90% of the time. Mr. Mike Simon.
Thank you. More than 350 workers, California workers, die from work-related injuries during a typical year, and the most deadly job in California and across the nation is working as a logger. The following rankings are based on workplace injuries. They do not include workers who die from health issues like a heart attack at their desk. Number 1, logging workers. Number 2, aircraft pilots. 3, truck drivers. 4, construction workers. 5, taxi drivers. 6, welders. 7, ground maintenance workers. 8, tree trimmers. 9, building painters. 10, farm workers. 11, police officers. 12, power line installers.
And of course, that study had to do with percentage of employees in the workforce versus deaths. If you're talking about injuries, my understanding is the most dangerous job still remains a crab fisherman, and of course I'm dedicated to the deadliest catch. If you are a crab fisherman, you will get injured. It's 100%. You go in that industry, you're getting injured. With the next news story of the day, and I wrote this and picked this out specifically with him in mind. I've known him for over 20 years. Without question, the best dressed man in California workers' compensation, Mr. Ted Durden.
Hey, Steve. This is a funny story.
I knew you'd like it.
I love tongue-in-cheek. All right. Uranus smells. After years of being the butt of many schoolyard jokes, it has been confirmed that Uranus, the 7th planet from the sun, stinks, according to a new study by researchers at the University of Oxford and other institutions, published in the journal Nature Astronomy. The upper layer of Uranus's atmosphere consists largely of hydrogen sulfide, the same compound that gives flatulence its putrid stench.
And this is not fake news, folks. This is real.
Just the facts.
Just the facts,
man.
Just the facts. And with the next news story of the day, I've known him for about 5.5 years. He's my protege. He never ceases to impress me, or himself for that matter. With the next news story of the day, attorney Robert Ozeron.
Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson toured a homeless women's center on LA Skid Row Tuesday as part of a fact-finding trip up to local public-private partnerships and faith-based programs tackling homelessness and job training. Carson, whose agency provided a record $109 million last year to LA's battle with one of the nation's worst homeless problems, also met with county and business homelessness leaders and stopped at faith-based drug treatment residential centers in Echo Park.
I wrote the story real fast. I'm sorry. You're doing great. Please
Well,
continue.
that's the end of the story. He checked in with some residential treatment centers in Echo Park at the end.
Yeah, I know. And of course, I made the joke, of course, about Sean Hannity's real estate guy tagging along behind. That's our first round of stories at the round table at the Palace in Uncle's studio. I think we got a couple of minutes before our first musical break. Ted, did you want to make a comment about last week's show? And then I don't know if you guys want to comment on the issues with the hacking of the commissioner's emails.
Okay, yeah. The one I wanted to talk about on last week's show was the incident that occurred at Starbucks when the two African-American gentlemen were asked to leave. They did, and they sat down. They subsequently got arrested. And then I heard that Starbucks was having a sensitivity training day. And I'm sorry. It's PC run amok, in my opinion. Here's where I'm at. Number one, we have a business establishment. They choose to run the business how they see fit. There are Starbucks out here that are mostly company owned. You can sit in there all you want to. You don't have to buy anything. It is not unusual for a restaurant or a place like Starbucks, a coffee shop, to require patronage. Buy something. I don't care if it's a bag of popcorn. Just buy it. And you sit there all day long if you want to. Bottle of water. Nurse it all day. So these gentlemen were asked to leave unless they bought something. They didn't.
But they said they were waiting for someone and they didn't want to buy anything until they got there.
Well, it doesn't matter. If you're going to sit in my place, possibly taking up seats for actual paying customers, then you may have to leave. Now,
so when is Durden's coffee shop opening?
I'll let you know as soon as you become my primary and major investor. Anyway, the bottom line is this. You know, the police were called because they didn't want to leave. The police even asked them to leave. They refused to leave, and then they got arrested. Okay? Number one, this is not racial animus. It isn't. It came out later on that was the same policy that they had applied to everyone.
But Ted, there was that situation, that tape that was recorded, I think in February of this year, where the black person is denied access to the bathroom because he hasn't bought something, and then he's filming, and a white guy comes up and goes, "Hey, can I use the restroom?" "Oh yeah, here's the key."
That would be an anecdote. That's like one situation, and you don't even know the details. Maybe they know the owner or something like that. You don't know. That's a difficult situation.
Exactly. You can't lump everything into it like that.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of this ever since that one incident. I don't think it's anything that there's been an uptick or anything. I just think that once this became viral, everyone has been reporting one. There was what happened at the Waffle House, for example. Two women.
You mean the killing?
No, not the killing.
Okay.
No. What happened is these two women got arrested. The backstory on that is they went in with a male friend drinking liquor. The waitress said, "You can't do that here. You need to leave." So they left. One woman came back. Again, the video came afterwards where she was cussing. She threatened to kill somebody. "I'll go get my gun and shoot this place up." My point is this. If you're at a business establishment, and I don't care if you eat tacos, if you eat chow mein, sushi, grits, chitterlings, soul food, it doesn't matter. If that business owner politely asks you to leave, well, for whatever reason, then just go.
And clearly, if the police are called and the police say leave, you don't argue with the police.
No, because
now you're just asking for trouble.
At that point, all they're doing is their job. I'm just so sick and tired of all these incidents that have hit the internet, that have hit YouTube, that are being splashed all over the news, where there's this, they're trying to indicate that it's racial animus, and it isn't. I would like to coin the phrase, it's an ideological civil rights war. where you have these people, blacks or could be Hispanic, where they have a perceived slight, and then they want to make it about racism or discrimination.
Okay,
and it isn't that.
But maybe it's not even blacks or Hispanics. Maybe it's just people who want victimization. They see victimization in themselves. A certain percentage of those may be black, maybe Hispanic, maybe white, maybe Asian. There's always a self-hating group out there for some reason of every population, I've noticed. Boss, for us, Jews, we definitely have some self-hating Jews out there. I know we all know them,
Yes.
right? They hate Israel. It's the only country it's crazy out there. So you have a lot of opinions for everybody. But I do agree with Ted that there's a lot of looking for victimization out there where there isn't any. And we just did a story on the homelessness. So for a business owner, you can imagine, right? You have to deal with these walk-ins. I was personally thinking about this problem the other day when I was in Costco, and I thought, you know what? I like the fact that I pay a small token amount for a membership here, so I don't have to deal with homeless people when I walk in the door.
You just have to deal
My
with the
shopping
long
experience.
lines and no one helping you, and you can't
You know
find
what?
anybody
All
to
right.
answer your questions.
That's
Yeah,
a different story, but but I like the idea of some sort of membership fee, so at least then there's a gate at the door so I could have a shopping experience without having to worry about someone walking up to me in the aisle and asking for a handout in the middle of the grocery store.
Well, that's true. And the only thing I would add to that is this, Robert. As long as it is a company that is not attempting to engage in economic lockout, because I saw that occur a lot during the 80s, where you have businesses that had a membership and they would make the membership so high in order to keep out, quote unquote, the rabble. It was an economic lockout.
I'm talking about something like a small monthly fee where you can walk into a Starbucks, for example, right? You show your card. That's it. You're a monthly member at the Starbucks. Maybe the coffee's even cheaper.
I was just going to suggest, what if we opened up Ted's Coffee House and we charged a $30 per month membership, but for that $30 a month, you got one free coffee a day.
There you go. Works for me.
I think generally with all of the homeless problem we're having, you can see how business owners could be sensitive to an issue like this,
Sure.
right? And there's going to be separation. People are looking for something to separate themselves from the general public because they don't want to see that when they're walking around shopping with their families.
Now I'm going to throw you all a curveball. And again, this is just my speculation. It's my crystal ball talking. I have no evidence whatsoever. What if Starbucks did this all specifically to weed out the bottom 10% of employees nationwide, rather than planning to do well? You know that there's a corporate saying that every year you should get rid of your 5 to 10% of dead weight and rehire. What if rather than having to announce that Starbucks had to lay off 5 to 10%, they're going to do this sensitivity training, and you watch afterwards, about 5 to 10% of the Starbucks employees fail their sensitivity training, and they're cut out.
Well, here's my thinking about that, we've touched on a similar subject. You can't legislate morality. You can't train a seminar.
I love that saying. You can't legislate morality. Ted, you told it to me first. Please continue.
You can't legislate morality, nor are you going to sensitivity train somebody out of bigotry or prejudice. If it's there, it's there. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't care how many training courses you have. And let's face it, and let's just be 100 grand real. The smart people who are, let me qualify that, okay. Those races who are intelligent enough to know when they're being sought out are smart enough how not to overtly portray their racism or their bigotry. It will be hidden under so many different guises, it's not even funny.
Unless, as I said last week, which you guys said probably won't happen, and I said, what if all their employees right off the bat get administered on MMPI?
Oh, geez. A psych test on everybody? First of all, it's not the CIA, okay?
No, yeah.
You're going to be a barista. All right? Just make the coffee, please.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Give
me my half decaf.
Do you speak any other languages? Could we send you to Russia in a pinch? It's like, no. I make a smooth macchiato.
I'm blowing it out of proportion, but it makes for good discussion radio,
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
They probably would do that if they could afford it. I mean, it would cost a fortune.
If they were guaranteed they'd make make money off it, they do it once a year.
Well, boss, but about Starbucks, I don't recall them ever taking time off for sensitivity training where they denied service to those police officers.
I don't recall any.
Do you recall that? I think it was about a year ago this time.
There's never been a company that has closed all of their brick and mortar stores for one day for one purpose.
Yeah, well, I told you at the time that I wouldn't have done that. I saw the video and I thought that I was wrong initially because I saw the video and I thought there was a quick hook.
And I said it was an ingenious move. It was fantastic.
Yeah, but the more that the facts come out here, the more you start to think, well, why don't you just avoid a conflict? Isn't that what most people would do? Most reasonable people would look for conflict avoidance.
No, and you're right. And I tell you what the bigger issue for me is, and this is with the current climate, maybe the best analogy to make. I liken what's happening in these videos that I discussed earlier, like what happened at Cracker Barrel, the Waffle House, and Starbucks. My concern is it's almost like the women who falsely claim rape. Because what happens is the real racism and discrimination, racial animus, that gets overlooked, or it gets lost in the cacophony of all this crap.
The boy who cried wolf, right?
Exactly.
We learned that one as a kid.
Exactly.
Right? You lose weight with your legitimate arguments and your legitimate claims when you start making them all the time.
Exactly. And again, it's like, I don't want to take responsibility for my actions. I want to blame somebody else. I want to become famous because of the fact that a man asked me to leave a restaurant that I wasn't patronizing, and I got all upset and been out of shape. The cops are called, and hey, I'm on TV now.
Did you see the video on the news where right after this, a black conservative gentleman was filming himself, wondering if he can get free coffee as reparations, and he walked in and demanded it, and they gave it to him.
Oh, my God.
And then he put it on the news. I think he went on Fox and gave an interview. And he said, the only reason I did this is I thought that I can do this and get on the news. And look, I'm right. And I thought to myself, yeah, he is right. Look at that guy. Wow. It was wild. And I could only imagine the poor girl who was in the front there.
I couldn't say it any better. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to WorkCom Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front-row concert, sports, theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. German automaker Audi is recalling more than 1 million vehicles worldwide due to a fire risk. Reuters. I always pronounce Reuters. Thank you, Reuters. I can never get that right. Reuters reported the automaker said that the electric coolant pump could overheat or short circuit from moisture within the cooling system. Who didn't put their phone on vibrate, Steve? Jesus. Where was I? Audi said that the recall covers 2013, 2017 Audi A5 Cabriolet, A5 Sedan, Audi Q5, 2012 to 2015, Audi A6, 2013 to 2016, Audi A4 Sedan, and A4 all-road vehicles with 2,000-liter turbo FSI engines. Audi's recalling 1 million cars. I get a telephone call during the show. And there you go. Okay, everybody, who wants the next news story at the round table?
I'll take it, sure.
And while he's taking it, no one wants to comment on the hacking of the emails of the WCAB commissioners. It's just a...
I'm primarily interested in Baker's involvement in all this.
Well, from what I saw, they talked about as far as the nepotism that was occurring between her son and her daughter. I'm interested in that too. But as far as the hacking is concerned, it's kind of interesting because I saw Mi Kim in court just yesterday, and you would think that with such a serious allegation that she would have been put on possibly paid leave or something like that as to how she got access to these emails.
I had some cases with Me Kim when she was representing the UEBTF. And, of course, I haven't, fortunately, had any cases with her now that she's in the fraud unit. But she was always tip-top, A+, 10 out of 10. Never had a problem with Me Kim whatsoever. And I just I hope that everything turns out okay. I really do.
Ted, was her demeanor normal when you saw her the other day?
Absolutely. She wasn't nervous. She was cool as a cucumber, unruffled. She was fine. I mean, we chatted. I didn't even know about this prior to today.
What was she doing one of the Judge Gunn hearings at the board dealing with the lien fraud and stuff? Or
I'm not exactly sure. I simply saw her, and because I was on a 4615 lien trial, and we just were having a discussion as far as
what's 4615?
That's the designated stay. If you have a stay designation, and that so all
wasn't being done by Judge Gunn.
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
He's not involved whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay.
So we simply got into a discussion about the documents and exhibits that they were uploading, and is now on the DWC website for defendants to download that they want to try to use to establish if the 4615 designation is appropriate. But other than that, we chatted about that, and that was pretty much about it. No, but I like Me Kim. I think she's a nice woman.
Absolutely. She's a sweetheart.
She's stellar. Seems to be beyond reproach, and who knows? Maybe she took some cues from Hillary Clinton. I don't know.
No.
It's never too late for a Hillary joke, though. We'll see what comes out of the
Hillary's
emails,
always in season, just like Trump.
Now, you guys, Hillary's coming on next week.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yes, Hillary Brick.
But Hillary Bricken is coming on next week.
That is a good plug right there. Look at that.
Nice segue.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Segue.
Thank you
Very
very much.
agile.
This podcast's not free, is it? Because you don't get quality like that for free.
You know what? I might have to charge for that one.
Yeah. You know the fax number.
No. As long as I'm in charge of WorkComp Matters will always be free. We are advertiser-supported podcast radio. And speaking of advertiser-supported broadcast radio, we are brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at a 1-833-57-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row, concert, sports, and theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at 310-395-8587 at Santa Monica Tickets. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to WorkComp Matters, and we will be back after this musical break.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far? Far as the eye can see. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. Naturally from back inside too. What a thing to do. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people?
La Familia, Glenn Laughlin, Cherry Blue Storms on Work Comp Matters. My name is Steve Appel. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front-row concert, sports, and theater tickets, give Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets at 310-395-8587. I think Ted has the next news story.
Yeah, I found this very interesting.
Yeah, good. Go for it.
A study by the NICM Health Research Institute, Western Sydney University, Australia, used a hand grip to measure muscular strength and revealed that stronger people perform better in brain functioning tests. Believe it or not, the body's physical strength has a lot of impact on the brain. The fitter you are, the sharper your brain is, giving just another reason to adopt a fit and healthy lifestyle. The study confirms that people who are stronger do indeed tend to have better functioning brains, says study co-author Joseph Firth. We can see there is a clear connection between muscular strength and brain health, Firth said.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask
Healthy body, healthy mind.
I want to ask all you guys, when you shake hands first with a man and when you shake hands first with a woman, tell me what's in your mind, if anything, as far as how hard you should shake, how hard of a shake you're expecting back, and tell me the difference between a man and a woman. I'm going to go around the table, so we'll go to Robert first. And again, Robert is of the younger generation, and of course, Ted, Mike, and I are of the next generation. But go ahead, Robert.
I think might be a bit more old-fashioned, though, in my approach. I think first, when I shake another man's hand, I try to be firm, but I match his pressure with my own. I don't come in it with some sort of preconceived plan. Unless he has some sort of really weak handshake. I've had that once or twice where you're holding like some weird. It's weird.
You're holding a dead hand.
It's like you're holding It's like you're holding a penguin, like a
noodle,
fin, you know?
more or less. Yes,
yeah,
that's what it feels like to me.
You know, and you try to get out of that real quick. You kind of shake their whole hand. I've had that issue where I've had people where I've like encompassed their whole hand with my hand. It's weird. And for a woman, it's the same thing, firm, but a little bit more gentle, probably more considerate. I don't know how else to say it. You want to be a little bit more considerate of your pressure,
right?
Because your hand is usually going to be much bigger.
And when you shake a woman's hand, at least for me, I know that when I'm in business, I use one hand. But when it's in a social situation, if generally speaking, I will go like two hands. Like my right hand, which I shake with, will go underneath or to the side, and then my left hand will come on top just very briefly on the hand.
I'll only do like multiple different types of shakes if I'm doing multiple shakes in a row, and I want the next person to feel special. Okay, I'm just like, well, I'm not going to give you the same shake I just gave him. Here's a double handshake, and then I'll, maybe you'll get like a pat on the back. You want to be like the president. You want something new for everybody.
Ted, when you shake hands with a man in a business and social setting, and you shake hands with a woman in a business and social setting, what do you expect, and have you ever been surprised? Give me your plan of action.
And do you assume their gender right away? Or no, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a whole other issue.
Well, there's two things that I do, whether I'm shaking a man's hand or a woman's hand. First of all, when I do a man's handshake with another man, it is a very strong, very firm, hard handshake. And I do that, and I look him dead in his eyes. That I do. When I'm shaking a woman's hand, I give a firm handshake, but again, like you suggested, and the same as you, Robert, I don't do it as hard. It's a light, firm handshake, but I still look at her in her eyes. Now, if it's in a social setting, The only way that would change, and only for the woman, not for the man, it's still the same, is if I'm familiar with her, if I know her, she's an acquaintance, then I'll probably do what you stated, Steve, and I'll do the two-hand handshake, because it's a more familiar approach. It's a warmer
but not
approach.
with someone you've never met before.
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
no,
okay.
I don't do that. No.
Gotcha.
No.
Mike, same question.
For the last number of decades, I do my best to shake a woman's hand exactly the same way I shake a man's hand, and it works. But yeah, you have to look the humanoid in the eye and give a firm handshake. There was this woman that I worked for when I worked for Weyerhaeuser. She was my boss for a couple of years, and she was about a 65-year-old woman. And the first time I met her, of course, she was in the Great Northwest, but she flew down and I met her. She shook my hand like Paul Bunyan would probably shake, and I was just very impressed with that. And so I've always done that. Sometimes, frankly, though, it freaks some women out, but I don't care.
And I was going to say that, of course, the precursor, which is not in the story, the precursor to the handshake is the waving of hello. Now, I think I've said it here once on the show, but it's a known fact that the waving of hello started in the Stone Age caveman days. And the reason is because if you're walking alone or you're with your kid or your wife and you see someone across a valley or across a river, you didn't wave hello to say hi. You waved hello to show that your hands were open and you were holding no weapons. And if the person waved back, you knew it was safe to continue approaching. If they did not wave or they kept their hands behind their backs, you got the heck out of there as quickly as possible.
Because they could have a gun on them.
Well, I don't think guns were made, but certainly bows and arrows.
Or a big rock.
Or a big rock. Yeah.
That is definitely the origin of the handshake, to show the other party that you are not armed.
Well, I was going to say, you never walked up to someone back then that you didn't know. You first got a glimpse of them 30 yards, 100 yards away, and you waved your hand. Then as you got closer, you would then shake hands to show you weren't hiding anything.
Boss, I got to say, I would assume in the Stone Age, obviously I wasn't around back then, but I would assume walking around that everybody's armed, right? I don't know if waving necessarily would indicate that someone's not armed, considering if you're walking around in the Stone Age, you're always armed,
perhaps
aren't
as
you?
an indication that you don't intend to use your arms.
Probably.
Fair enough, yeah.
Like, I don't plan on stabbing you right now. We all know we're all armed.
And, I couldn't agree with you more, Robert. Not now, but maybe later.
Well, not in England, right? It's illegal now.
Who's got the next news story on work comp matters?
I'll do one.
All right.
There have been a handful of case reports of kidneys being reused after the first recipient dies or rejects the donor kidney.
Who writes these news stories?
Wow. Generally just days after the original surgery, and often while the recipient and organ are still at a transplant center.
Let me tell you something. If I need a new kidney, I don't want one that's already been implanted someone who died after the transplant surgery. I want one that's never been cut out of anybody before.
So this guy, Tom
Moan,
except for the first time.
Tom Moan, M-O-N-E, CEO of One Legacy, a nonprofit organ procurement organization based in Southern California, says there's no history or practice of retransplanting. Among transplant surgeons, there's a mistrust it will not work out. End quote. Kidneys that have been transplanted once are rarely used again, he said, actually again, because they are seen as damaged goods after going through not one but two death events. And because transplant surgery can be rough on organs, they get flushed with solution, put on ice, and are sometimes injured by the reperfusion of blood, he said. Immune-suppressing drugs can also be toxic to kidneys.
Exactly.
Isn't that shocking?
That's crazy. Talking about giving new meaning to discount body parts. That's just absolutely ridiculous.
Or regifting. Regifting a gift.
Well, it's got to be criminal. That's got to be criminal activity. It's got to be a statute.
Well, I tell you, even beyond that, I would imagine any hospital that was engaging in such practice, they're opening themselves up to such a huge lawsuit. Just huge.
Well, the
That would just
hospital
be
or the
crazy.
doctor? The hospital's just the facility. It's
Well,
the,
yes,
the,
yes,
the doctor
yeah.
or the team.
And whatever insurance carrier they have may want to try to run the other way, saying, "Hey, this is not insured activity. We don't insure this stuff."
And hot off the press, and I mean just hot off the press, Robert just saw this. Apparently, after 40 years, the Golden State Killer has been caught. And if I understand correctly, he's had over 50 murders and rapes over 40 years from Northern California to Southern California, and he's an ex-cop. Robert with the next news story.
Well, that is the news story, boss.
Oh, do I have anything
That's a hell
in front
of a lead-in,
do I
huh?
have-
Well, a fantastic lead.
Can you just fill in the details for
All
us,
right,
Robert?
well,
could you please?
Let's see. A former California police officer has been identified as the so-called Golden State Killer, also known as the East Area Rapist, believed to have committed 12 killings and at least 50 rapes across California in the 70s and 80s. And actually, if you guys, there's a documentary that was out only a couple months ago on a TV covering this and how they were reopening the investigation and putting together all of these forensic experts to try to come up with something.
DNA was the thing here.
And I believe it's more than 12 killings because on that's how many that they can conclusively confirm based on, pattern and all that. But this documentary is very extensive.
the guy's right now is
amazing.
72 years old. He started the rape and killings in Sacramento, worked his way down to Southern California over 40 years, and he was recently living in Sacramento like Mike just said, DNA caught him.
Yeah, his name is, we're going to use his name because I'm sure it's going to be coming up. Joseph James D'Angelo, age 72.
There, see, I purposely buried the lead for you on Work Comp Matters so Robert could bring it in. Go ahead, please continue.
He was arrested after investigators matched a discarded DNA sample from his home to evidence collected at some of the crimes. These are going to be old crimes, of course. We all knew we were looking for a needle in a haystack, Sacramento District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert said. It is fitting that today is National DNA Day. We found the needle in the haystack, and it was right here in Sacramento. D'Angelo was arrested without incident this week in connection with a crime spree that spanned over 4 decades in at least 10 counties throughout California. His name emerged in connection with the crimes last week. So this is as fresh as it gets. He actually spent 6 years as a cop, and then he just kind of took off. His neighbors said he was weird.
So I'm curious, what pointed them in his direction, though?
Well, the way I look at the news story, he probably threw away some trash that had his DNA on it. Now, how they knew to check his trash or whatever, I don't know.
The DNA match and how it happened, it's not released in the story yet, but it could be very interesting. It might be this familial DNA as they're doing nowadays.
What is that, Robert? What is
That's when, if your family member may be registered or something like that, they can trace a portion of the DNA and they'll know that they must be related to you as the perpetrator. They don't know who you are, but they'll start, going up and down your family tree. They'll find you. So maybe a felon connects with another felon, right? Like they do a match, like a search, because these were a lot of rapes, and they kept a lot of the samples there because, they're it's a huge case, right?
But my question is, what made him a suspect?
Well, that they haven't released. They said just last week.
Okay.
And he obviously, just from reading the headline, he fits the mold that we were all looking for pretty much if you saw the documentary, which was this guy kept getting away with things, right? He left crime scenes too clean, and even for that era, 70s and 80s, it was stumping all investigators. And he was just moving around freely. They were talking about how he first was raping with only women in the house, and then they had a community meeting somewhere in Northern California where he actually must have attended, because his next one, he purposely made sure that a man was there and killed him with a gun. It's, obviously deranged stuff, but to say that they reopened the investigation and now that fast they can close a serial killer from 40 years ago and still catch him alive and bring him to justice. It's going to be unbelievable.
It will be
amazing.
interesting to hear how the police came to regard him as a suspect.
Right. That's the part that I'm really interested in.
My name is Steve Appel. I'm also interested in that. You're listening to Work Comp Matters, brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want those #1 hard-to-get, sold-out, front-row concert sports theater tickets, Give Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. And, of course, if you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system in the damn Kuiper Belt, give me a call, 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law will be back with the last segment on Work Comp Matters after this next musical break.
Well, you can't turn him into a company man. You can't turn him into a whore. And the boys upstairs just don't understand anymore. Well, the top brass don't like him talking so much, and he won't play what they say to play. And he don't wanna change what don't need to change. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ. Well, some folks say they're gonna hang him so high, 'cause you just can't do what he did. There's some things you just can't put in the minds of those kids. As we celebrate mediocrity, all the boys upstairs wanna see how much you'll pay for what you used to get for free. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. And there goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ. Down in Mexico, and sometimes it'll kinda come in, and I'll bust a move and remember how it was back then. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ.
Petty on Work Comp Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row, damn it, concert, sports, or theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. Someone's got the next news story. Who wants it?
I'll take it.
All right. I've already introduced him, so I'm just going to give him about 5 seconds to take a look over. Uncle's Studios is looking actually with some extra lights tonight because they had a recording in here, and I like this, Scott. I like the way the place is lit tonight. Thank you very much, but it ain't going to be nothing like the way it's lit next week with our special guest, Hillary Brigham. But, Mike, you've got the next news story right now.
For those age 65 and older who meet federal supplemental security income guidelines, $9,007 per year for an individual and $1,244 for a couple. The state's in-home supportive services program will tap a mix of state, federal, and county funds to pay for up to 283 hours of home caregiving per month. Blind and disabled residents who meet the income guidelines but who may not yet be age 65 or older also qualify. The San Diego County Public Authority administers the program and uses social workers to interview each applicant and determine whether he or she is, quote, unable to live at home safely without help, end quote, assigning a specific number of hours that the program will pay to hire an individual provider to work in the home.
California Insurance Commissioner Dave Jones is continuing to urge insurers to cover the state's cannabis industry amid reports that President Donald Trump's administration will not crack down on states allowing the use of marijuana. More than 24 surplus lines insurance and the first admitted insurer are now offering insurance for various risks faced by the cannabis business in California, the department said in a statement yesterday. Since California voters legalized adult recreational use of cannabis in November 2016, Mr. Jones has encouraged insurers to offer insurance products to the cannabis industry. The cannabis industry currently has revenues of $9 billion per year and is projected to grow to an excess of $60 billion per year by 2027, according to the commissioner. Robert, have you got a next news story in front of you?
I'm just wondering if I could turn into a farmer, because that is amazing growth.
Well, just remember, as we read earlier on Work Comp Matters, it's one of the most top 10 dangerous things to be is working for a farmer.
Yeah, workers' comp attorney wasn't on that list. I appreciated that.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine you do too much heavy lifting during your day. I mean, I realize some of your files can get quite thick. You might have to do a little repetitive bending and stooping to go from one shelf to the next to get your documents.
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask me, I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, you know?
Oh.
Just call you Atlas.
There we go.
Okay.
Right, the lawyer. Okay, I got the next news story here. Adventist Health Glendale aced yet another safety care study conducted by the National Hospital Safety Organization. The Leapfrog Group, a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., awarded its 7th straight A grade to Adventist Health Glendale in its spring 2018 results released Tuesday. Leapfrog awards hospital safety grades twice a year based on a number of criteria that measure the quality of patient safety.
Ted, do you have a final news story in front of you? Or you can just ad-lib it. You know, it's okay with me.
Maybe the Kanye West tweet in support of Donald Trump. What do you think?
Ted, is there something about teen texting in front of you?
There is.
Yes,
well, I
there
don't
is.
know.
Yes, there
Please
is.
read the teen texting, please.
Okay. More than half of the teens in the United States admit to texting while driving, and this has become a significant public health issue, leading to preventable deaths and disabling injuries, said... That's supposed to be Madam Kit Delgado.
You know what? Steve Appel of Work Comp Matters say it. Half the teens that drive text. Please continue.
However, teens who admit to texting while driving may be convinced to reduce risky cell phone use behind the wheel when presented with financial incentives, such as auto insurance apps that monitor driving behavior. However, while more than 90% of teens surveyed said they were willing to give up sending or reading text messages, almost half indicated that they would want to retain some control over phone functions such as music and navigation.
You know, when I had just gotten my driver's license, I was 16, and it was 2 weeks afterwards, and I was driving on the freeway. I was driving about 65 miles an hour. I wasn't speeding. I was in rush hour traffic, and I was still working on my basics. And I wanted to change lanes. So I'm driving at about 60, 65 miles an hour. I put on my blinker. I check my rear view mirror. I check my side view mirror. I check my other side view mirror. Everything is clear. I quickly turn around to make sure there are no blind spots. and I turn back in front of me, and this is 2 weeks after I got my license, and the 18-wheeler in front of me is stopped with its red lights on, or it's slowing down, and I had to slam on the brakes, and I'm driving this little MGB GT, okay? I mean, I would have been crushed like a harmonica or whatever that
bug into a windshield.
Yeah, that's
Accordion.
right. Accordion. Thank you very much. And I barely survived. There were no cell phones back then. I didn't even carry a portable radio. I was lucky if I had an AM radio. My point being, folks, is that these days it almost seems usual and customary to check your phone when you're driving. Now, I know the gentleman at this table, and I know for a fact, at least most of the time, that when Ted is driving, he has his cell phone on Do Not Disturb. Is that right?
That is correct.
Most of the people that I know do not have, including me, do not have their cell phones on disturb and will check the phone. I admit it. I have a hands-free Bluetooth in my car, but I am as guilty as the next person of at least once during a drive, for whatever the reason is, while I'm driving, I will pick the phone up with my hand, and it is an irresponsible, stupid move. Now, Mike just recently got Bluetooth, and so you've been using your cell phone, I presume, with the Bluetooth for less than 6 to 9 months. But before the Bluetooth, you don't even have a voicemail that's set up. So generally speaking, before the Bluetooth, Mike, you never use the cell phone in the car. Am I right?
Rarely.
Okay. Now, well, at least when I call you now, you pick it up on the Bluetooth. Do you make telephone calls with the Bluetooth in the car?
No, because frankly, I'm stupid and I haven't figured out how to make an outgoing call yet. There are many reasons that I feel Cro-Magnon at times.
So you're safe by ignorance.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the arrogance of ignorance.
Yeah, okay. Now, Robert is the most tech savvy. He has a late model car. I'm not going to say which. I'm positive it has Bluetooth. I know you've spoken to me with Bluetooth in the car, but I want to know, do you put the phone in your hand when you're driving?
Usually no.
Oh, usually, but sometimes. Okay.
Well, maybe you got to look at the map or something, right? You got a map that's open on your phone. You might want to touch it or something like that.
Do you have that sticky thing on your dash so the phone is looking you in the face like the Uber and Lyft drivers on your dash, or do you put it? I put mine down in my slot.
I put mine down. I do have one of those, but I don't like it and I don't use it, so it's not even on my car.
So do you put it in the center console or on the passenger seat?
Depends. Usually the center console, there's a little housing there for it.
Now, can you look what's on the screen without putting your hands on it while you're driving?
Yes.
And
if you have your application already open,
Yeah.
like a map application, for example, it should already be on your screen and presenting itself while you're moving.
So this is the question that I ask. Is it safer for someone like Robert to take his eyes off the road and look down at the center console, or someone stupid like me to pick the phone up from like the passenger seat and put it at eye level if I want to see something quickly?
Well, I don't know which one's more dangerous, but I think this gets back to our driverless car argument or discussion, because it both have some degree of danger, but the number one most dangerous thing in those cars is you and me. It's the humans, right? We make mistakes. We're not perfect. I could tell that, maybe driving right now wouldn't be so great. So, so you never know. You never know who's out there on the road, and it'd be a lot easier, especially for older people like my grandparents, to have a car take you everywhere. And I was thinking of some sort of invention, and whoever's on the radio, you can have my ideas. You go for it. If you can make money, God bless. But, like a cop car used to have a cherry on top. Can't you put like a camera, a computer, like 360 thing, and connect with other cherries on top of cars, and maybe they can talk to each other and the spacing or something like that? Because it's all about spacing and timing, and there's instructional videos people now have to watch when they get their license, One of them is on YouTube called "Why Are We Monkey Drivers?" Because we have slow reaction times, right? We could only do a daisy chain type of situation. If we were all to accelerate at the same time, we would have no traffic, right? But it's the situation that it's the drivers in each car. So in that situation, boss, let's move towards the future, get towards driverless cars, and then we can do whatever we want.
And get from point A to point B and be safe. And with that, we have come to the end of another edition of WorkCom Matters. It has been a sincere pleasure. Where we started out, I thought yesterday that this was just going to be a dead show because we were looking forward to Hillary Bricken next week. And, of course, all the news gets dropped in my lap within 24 hours. At least in my opinion, we had a pretty damn good show. Okay?
Absolutely. I thought
Anytime I admit that I do stuff that's stupid, it's a good show. Okay? For my right-hand man, Mike Zima, who keeps me from doing stupid things and out of trouble at least 90% of the time. For the best-dressed man in California workers' compensation, and no exception tonight, Mr. Ted Durden. From my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron. For Scott Walton on the board from Uncle Studio. And, of course, all the good people back at WorkComp Central who continue to support and approve of this fantastic project, including, but not limited to, Leaf File and Jake Paris. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again next week with Hillary Bricken and another special edition of Work Comp Matters.